Am I the asshole for telling my sister that she destroyed her own life and has no one to blame but herself? My sister went to an Ivy League college and an Ivy League law school. Right out of law school, she got a job at one of the biggest law firms in America as a litigation lawyer. She was making well over $200,000 as a starting salary. Shortly after she finished law school, she married a surgeon who adored and loved her. She threw all of that away. She had an affair with one of her clients. His litigation case was from the same acts as his criminal trials. He's a scumbag who had a criminal record already. Despite his parents having money, his crimes were enough to still put him in jail. He wasn't in jail when they met, but my sister got busted when she was visiting him in jail after his sentencing. She visited him as his lawyer, but didn't disclose that they were in a romantic relationship. They got caught by employees at the jail. She lost her job at the law firm. She tried fighting it, but she got disbarred because having a romantic relationship with a client was forbidden. She was sued, and she also got arrested for both smuggling things, like a cell phone, into the jail and for helping him cover up his crimes and destroying evidence in the lawsuit. Her husband left her when she got busted at the jail, and it came out that the baby she was pregnant with, my nephew, was not his. It sounds like a darn soap opera. I was away at college when all of this was going down, so I only heard details from my mom and dad. I thought they had exaggerated, but it's all true. Now I'm home until the fall when graduate school starts. My sister lives with my parents. She's on probation, and she's doing a reunification program to get custody of my nephew back. He's living with Scumbag's sister, who is the opposite of her criminal brother since he was born. I visit them sometimes. My sister works in the stockroom at Target. I'm tired of my sister complaining about how unfair everything is and how she was mistreated and it wasn't that bad. She constantly goes on about it and acts like the victim. I finally snapped and told her it's her fault and she has no one else to blame. I also said it's a wrong attitude to have if she wants to rebuild her life and get custody of my nephew back. She's pissed off. Even my dad said I could have been kinder to her because she's at rock bottom. Was I wrong for what I said? My sister wasn't a child. She was a highly paid lawyer with an Ivy League education. She knew what she was doing was wrong on so many levels. She created this mess, and I'm tired of her constantly complaining and whining. She's really pissed and wants me to take it back, and it caused a huge argument. Yeah, she's at rock bottom. Was I wrong for what I said?
Storytime about my toxic foster family. So, little background information. Whenever this all happened, I was 19 years old and I was already out of school. But I had been adopted by a family whenever I was 16 years old. And at this point, they had been fostering my brother for about a year. So the only things that they knew about me is whatever my brother told them. Whenever I was 17, my sister ended up passing away, and I went into a really deep depression where I would wake up and go to sleep crying for months on end. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty neglected. Like, my family would get $800 to $1,000 every month for me, and I never saw a dime of that money, let alone we would only go shopping probably once a year for clothes, and I never really got to go out. Well, when I went to them about being depressed, they said that if I didn't feel okay after vacation, they would get me help. Well, they lied because it got worse, and they didn't really care. Everybody was getting paid to do chores except for me, and I literally had so much more to do than everybody else in the house. And then I got a boyfriend, like for part 2. Part 2 about my toxic foster family. So like I said, everybody else in the house really had no chores to do, and they would get paid for whatever the hell they did, even if it was like pick up a dime off the floor. Meanwhile, I was like Cinderella, cleaning the whole house, not getting paid for shit. And then I get a boyfriend who was super caring and acknowledged the fact that I was super emotionally and physically beat down. And the worst part is, I just want to throw this in here, my biological brother was literally no help. When I came to him saying that I was depressed, he was like, oh, you're too sensitive. And then he would literally stalk me 24/7, always knew where I was at, always was making my life even harder than it had to be. So the one morning I got up and I just decided to leave. And then after that, for 1 year straight, I got harassed with emails. I would get tailgated on the freeway. And even though I got away from them, I'm still kind of scared that my biological brother will do something. So yeah.
Am I wrong for going on vacation without my husband? My husband, 32 male, and I, 29 female, planned a week vacation to New Orleans. We, but mostly I, have been planning this for months. Back in March, I told him I planned most of it, where to go, what to do, and all he had to do was make sure he had the week off and buy the plane tickets. I spent the last few months researching what to do. I booked the hotel room, made reservations at places we wanted to try, and also made a list of sites. And every few weeks, I would check in with my husband to see if he asked off and bought the tickets yet. He would say he was waiting for the ticket prices to go down, so 3 weeks ago I reminded him again. That's when he said he got the time off of work but had forgotten to get the tickets. And when he looked online, the tickets were close to $1,500 per ticket, so he said he'd wait again to see if they went down. Last week I asked if he bought them yet, and guess what he said? Of course, no. So we looked again and the prices were still high. Am I wrong for going on vacation without my husband? I asked if he bought the tickets again and he said no. We looked again and the prices were still high and he said he wasn't willing to spend that much money on them. He proceeded to ask how much money I would lose if I just canceled everything instead. He offered to have a nice staycation instead, and I told him I was not willing to cancel everything because I spent so much time planning it. So we argued and didn't come to a conclusion, and I wound up buying one ticket for myself. Then when Saturday came, I told him I was still going. He acted all surprised that I didn't want to stay home with him. I'm in New Orleans now, and he's blowing up my phone saying I'm wrong for leaving him. He was trying to get a ticket to come too, but I told him if he came, he's getting his own hotel room. Because now, this is my vacation away from him. Am I wrong? Top comment says, I don't know if he deliberately sabotaged the trip or just didn't care enough to follow through his tiny piece of things. Am I wrong for not helping my brother with his daughters when his wife left him? I, female 30, am single and child-free by choice. I do date occasionally, but nothing long-term. This is because I love my freedom, I want to enjoy my life without those responsibilities, and just want to focus on my career. Now, my older brother, male 34, got married when he was 26. He has 2 kids, female 7 and female 4. They had a traditional household where he wanted a partner who stayed home and looked after the family while he earned. And apparently, she dreamed of being a homemaker and taking care of the children, so it just kind of worked out. But during the last couple of years, she showed signs of hating it. She wanted to study more and work outside and build something of her own, but my brother refused to step up or to help. I did warn him once, but he told me it's none of my business how he runs his household, so I kept my mouth shut ever since. And unfortunately, his wife left him a month ago. Am I wrong for not helping my brother with his daughters when his wife left him? She wrote him a letter saying she can't do this and wants to explore her life. She also left him with the kids and basically vanished. Now we have no idea where she is, and apparently neither does her family. The thing is, my brother doesn't know how to do even the most basic things. He's the kind of guy who never changed a diaper or toasted bread. So when he found out his wife left, he called my mother, who rushed in to save the day. She thought it was short term and my sister-in-law would be back, but she hasn't. The thing is, my father's unwell and needs her home soon, and they live hours away. That's when my brother suggested she take the kids home with her. But my dad said no because they're retired and they're both getting old, and he doesn't want the kids in the house full time, taking up her time and energy. And since that was a no-go, my brother asked me to either move in with them to help out or take the kids with me. I did refuse, but now the family's pressuring me.
My ex took my daughter's ashes with him after we broke up, and it tears me up inside. I want her back so bad. I'm 25. My daughter was born sleeping, and even though it was 3 years ago, it always looked in the back of my mind as the worst day of my life. My ex, let's call him M, was unsupportive of me my entire pregnancy. He would constantly tell me how he wasn't ready and didn't want to be a dad. He begged me to give her up. As soon as we found out she was sleeping, he immediately started acting like he had always wanted to be a father, just soaking up all of the attention he got from having a deceased daughter. I saw right through it all, of course. Our relationship gradually got worse and worse until I couldn't take it anymore. The house was a mess and he was using our daughter's death as an excuse for everything. Why didn't he have a job? You know how it's been since she died. I can't work. Can he please take the trash out? Sorry, I keep getting flashbacks of Lily. Not gonna do it. It got to the point where he started blaming Lily's death for his abhorrent behavior towards me. He'd yell and scream at me for the smallest things and then say it's just because he's grieving. As if I wasn't also grieving and yet still working to support the both of us. I finally broke up with him last year and it was a horrible ordeal. It was so stressful trying to get him out of the apartment that I didn't even notice he had taken the urn with Lily's ashes in it until a few days later. Of course, I frantically called and texted him, asking if he moved it. He finally got back to me and said, "She's my daughter, she's going to be with me." I yelled at him so bad on the phone. I shouldn't have, but it was too much emotion to deal with. I told him that he was a terrible father and he never even wanted our daughter. And you know what? He just laughed and said I was too crazy to have been a mother anyways. He's since blocked me, and every attempt to reach out to his family to get her back has failed. He moved to an entirely different state. Maybe I'm crazy, but I know one thing. Lily was truly loved by me. Even if she's not with me physically, I'm sure she knows who actually loved her. I can't help but worry about the conditions that my ex is keeping her in though. She's probably in a box collecting dust, and it tears me up inside every day. I miss my daughter so much, and I can't tell you how much I cried wishing I could have her back. Is there anything I can do? Should I apologize and pretend to be nice so I can get her back? I would consider going to a lawyer, or I would call the cops and say, hey, he stole my daughter basically, and you guys never discussed it, and I would take him to court. I know that takes a lot of time and money, but she obviously means a lot to you, and this is something you could try to pursue. Just from reading this, I feel like he's just purely doing this to mess with you and to piss you off, and it's working. Of course it's working because it's your daughter, and he did it to get a reaction out of you, which sucks, and I really do hope you're able to get her back.
I refused to give my girlfriend my jacket and shoes after I insisted to her to bring one. I, 21 male, have a girlfriend, 25 female. We've been together for 9 months and this relationship is great. I'm a very chivalrous person, opening doors, walking by the road, giving her my jacket when she's cold, taking her out on dates and such. Recently, I have noticed that she picked up the habit of intentionally leaving her jacket behind and asking me for mine, and not packing ballet flats when we go out. Because of this, I always give her my jacket and shoes when we go out, so I'm cold and barefooted. I would have been carrying her instead, but I have back issues and putting any form of pressure on my back is not advised. I asked why she stopped bringing those along, and she said that she can't find her ballet flats and that she keeps on forgetting her jacket. To avoid this happening again, I bought her a new pair of flats and kept them in my car. It's been raining the past few days, so the weather has been colder than usual. 2 days ago when we went on a date again, and before we left, I reminded her several times to pick up a jacket in case it starts raining. Just as we were about to leave, I asked her one more time to pick up a jacket, and she said that she had it in the car. Fast forward to our date. We were taking a walk when she said that her heels were hurting her feet and she was feeling cold, so she wanted my jacket and shoes. Mind you, it rained a bit while we were on our date, so the grass was wet and muddy. I told her to wait for me on the bench, so I quickly grabbed her shoes and jacket from the car. She was hesitant and insisted that she wanted mine, but I told her that hers were in the car, so I'll just grab it so we can both be comfortable. Turns out she had no jacket in the car. I was obviously annoyed at this point, so I called her to come to the car and that we're going home. She was mad at me and said that I was petty for ending the date because of a common jacket. I told her that wasn't the issue, that it was the fact that she had lied about picking up a jacket. Yes, I would have been frustrated if it was a mistake again, but when I realized she did it on purpose, I refused to give in. So am I in the wrong here?
Here's a story time of when my crazy ex made me take a polygraph test. A little backstory, we had been together for 4 months at this point. 2 months into the relationship, he started acting strange. Before that, he was absolutely completely loving and normal. So since those 2 months were perfect, we had fallen in love and we had been talking about marriage and so many other plans. But then he started acting strange. He called me and told me he had a substance abuse problem and nothing was the same after that. So at the 4-month mark of the relationship, he had started accusing me of being an escort and being with other guys, even though I spent all of my time with him, and I even offered to install cameras into my apartment, which he did not want to. So one day that he was mad at me, I knew that he was on something. I couldn't tell exactly what, but he came up to me and asked me if I would take a polygraph test, and I said absolutely. Little did I know that the polygrapher he hired was actually a con artist, so when we show up to this man's office to take the polygraph test, it was part 2 of the polygraph test. I sit down in the chair and the polygrapher actually starts making comments about my eyes and my dress. Obviously, I was really uncomfortable. I look over at my boyfriend and he could tell that I was very uncomfortable, but he just kept the conversation going with the guy like nothing wrong was happening. In fact, he was holding my hand and making comments about how beautiful I was. Super odd behavior. Finally, the test is over and he reveals that I failed every single question, even the one about my name, where I live, and where I'm from, which is absolutely impossible. My boyfriend starts to sob instantly, and I pull out my phone and I begin to Google the guy. Lo and behold, I find 10 articles about how he's a con artist. I show it to him and then to my boyfriend, and he kicks us out of his office. He's still sobbing at this point. We drive back to his house and he's beside himself. He says, I don't know what to believe. And I said, well, you can believe the articles or you can believe me. This guy was obviously a con artist. I break up with him and I go back to my apartment. A week later, he comes looking for me and he is crying and I took him back, unfortunately.
Part 1 of how my best friend's husband tried to hook up with me. 2 of my closest friends are a married couple, Nicole and Aaron. I've known them for years and they're expecting their first baby in a few months. We're all really close and I could see them being in my life forever. That was until Aaron started acting weird. One morning I woke up with a text from Aaron that said, I've always been attracted to you and you've been on my mind a lot lately. I was shocked. He's never tried to go there with me before and I never thought he would. I didn't know what to do and I just stared at my phone in disbelief for about 20 minutes. When I messaged back and confronted him about it, he told me that he got really drunk last night and didn't mean any of it. He begged me not to tell Nicole and swore that it would never happen again. He continued to convince me by saying how the baby was due in a few months and this would ruin everything. I decided to let it go and told him I don't ever want it to happen again. I didn't want to break up their marriage or their baby to have to grow up without a father. I wanted to believe that it was just a drunken mistake and we could all still be friends. But in the back of my mind, I knew I should have told Nicole. And that feeling turned out to be right because it only got worse from here. Part 2 of how my best friend's husband tried to hook up with me. A few weeks after the drunken text incident, I received a Snapchat from Aaron one night. I opened it and it was the one thing that girls never want to get. The infamous unsolicited D-pic. I could not believe that this guy really sent me something like this after begging me not to tell his wife about the previous flirty text message. Before even replying, I had already made up my mind and I was going to tell Nicole. After I told him I was going to tell Nicole, he tried to convince me that he sent the picture by mistake. I replayed the snap and screenshotted it for evidence to show Nicole. Before I could reply again, he messaged me back and said, "Replaying a screenshot, huh? You must have really liked what you saw." I was fuming and furious that he would even think for a second that I was interested in his disgusted naked selfie. I immediately sent the screenshot to Nicole and told her what happened. I also explained what had happened before. She ended up kicking him out of their apartment that same night. Then she asked me to come over and we spent the evening packing up Aaron's stuff and putting it on the curb. I guess the next morning Aaron hadn't gotten his stuff fast enough and it was garbage day. Nicole and I are still best friends to this day.
Here's a story time about when I broke off my 1.5-year engagement with my ex-fiance. We met on a movie set. He was playing my boyfriend, and within a week, we were already calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. 2 months into the relationship, he convinced me to move to LA with him because we both wanted to pursue acting seriously, and he was an established model already. He had worked in Tokyo and Paris as a model. Of course, I was so in love. I said yes, and I left my family, which was really heartbreaking for them. I will totally always regret that decision because I left way too soon. I was so young. We struggled for money in LA, but I decided to get a serving job, so I was making more money than he was because he was working at a movie theater making $8 an hour. Because of this, I had to pay for a lot of the bills, and I even started helping him pay off his school loans. We also shared a banking account, which was terrible because I was putting in way more money than he was. I hated the apartment we lived in because I would wake up with roaches in my hair, so I decided to get a second serving job. When I asked him to get a second job as well, he said no because he was very happy at his job. Part 2 is up. Part 2. So I asked my fiance if he could get a second job to help me out with the bills, and he said no. I would tell my mom and sisters about the situation, and they would tell me that he should definitely be helping me out more, and I just would make up excuses for him, and I just thought it's okay, he can work at the movie theater, and I will work my 2 jobs. At this point, I was paying for most of the rent, most of the bills, and his student school loans. I owed $20,000, you guys, and I was paying for all of that. I even got a third job because I wanted to save up to move out of that crappy apartment. Finally, I got hired at the strip club as a cocktail waitress, and I was able to quit all of my other jobs. My ex-fiance was definitely happy with the amount of money I was making at the strip club. Of course, he felt absolutely no pressure to get a new job and help me out. I finally put my foot down and told him we were moving to a better apartment because I was not happy in the apartment we were in. I told him he had no right to say no because I was the one paying for everything. We found the perfect apartment and I loved it. It was absolutely beautiful and I felt so at home there. Then one night, I was sexually assaulted at the strip club. Of course, I was really affected by it. At first, he was supportive, but after a few days, he basically told me to get over it. Part 3. When he told me to just get over the sexual assault that I experienced at the strip club, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that the man I was about to marry would be so insensitive. And then I just started realizing, wait, I am paying for everything. I pay for your bills, I pay for your rent, I pay for your student loans, and you're here telling me to just get over this sexual assault. It was like someone had put a mirror to my face and was showing me the truth. Final straw was when I told him I wanted to quit the strip club because I didn't want to be in that environment and I didn't want to see the man that had sexually assaulted me again. He said, absolutely not, you can't quit, the money is too good. And that's when I broke up with him. I told him that I couldn't be with someone who didn't care enough about me and only really cared about the money and to be kept. He was so comfortable with me paying for everything and him just chilling at a job where he got paid $8 an hour while I was busting my butt every single night. He told me I would never find anyone better than him. The breakup was amicable, thank God. He didn't stress me out or anything. He kind of said, you know, you'll be back. Of course, I never went back. Know your worth and be with someone who actually cares about you.
Story time about my toxic ex-friend group. So my freshman year, I had moved to a new high school. So right away, I started being friends with this group of girls, and they were super nice. And I was also friends with this group of guys. Well, since I was friends with both groups, we all started hanging out all the time, but only whenever I was there. The boys just didn't want to hang out with the other girls. And after a few months, the girls started acting really strange. So anytime that I would hang out with the boys and not invite them, they would ignore me for a whole week. Meaning they wouldn't talk to me in school, they wouldn't answer my messages, or anything like that. Not a single one of them. And also, anytime that we hung out, they would be like, oh, invite the boys. And it was like they never wanted to hang out with me. So the one night, one of the boys was throwing a party. And I was going, and the girls asked if they could come, but they had drama with a lot of people, so the boys didn't want them coming, but I invited them anyways. Like for part 2. Part 2 to the toxic ex-friend group story time. So, I invited them to the party, they showed up, and they were being really rude and, standoffish the whole entire night. and these girls literally hated it whenever I would hang out with the boys or talk to the boys. Come to find out that every single one of the girls had a crush on every single one of the guys that were in my friend group. Also, I'm a very friendly person and will talk to anybody, and they got pissed off whenever I was talking to anybody who wasn't them. So a little bit into the party, I start getting a lot of dirty looks from a lot of different girls that I've never even talked to. And this girl walks up to me and she's like, "Why have you been Snapchatting my boyfriend?" And I'm like, "Girl, what are you talking about?" She goes, "A few of your friends told me that you like my boyfriend and that you've been Snapchatting him and trying to get with him." So then she calls the girls over from my friend group and goes, "Didn't she tell me this?" And they're like, "Yeah, she tries to get with everybody's boyfriend." So after that, I got kicked out of both friend groups because they spread a bunch of lies and rumors about me.
My 25 female, boyfriend 28 male says my boundary is controlling. Let me be the judge of that. My boyfriend says that my boundary of not wanting to be with someone who goes to strip clubs is controlling. Next, red flag. He is trying to gaslight you. That is not a controlling boundary. That is like a very reasonable. He's not willing to give up that lifestyle. Okay. I've explained to him several times that my ex of 3 years had multiple relations with several strippers, and as such, it is a hard limit. He said he is a grown man and he can do whatever he wants and doesn't have to follow the rules of someone else. Oh my god. It's, I said, "I agree, but you're absolutely allowed to do whatever you want, but I won't be in a relationship with someone who cannot put my feelings over seeing another woman naked and getting a lap dance." I told him this before things even got serious with us, and he said he didn't want to go to one anyways, so it was fine and he understood. Now, all of a sudden, I'm trying to control him? I don't think I am. I never said, "You're not allowed to go to a strip club." I said it was a boundary of mine, and if it is something he feels he needs to do, then we can just go our separate ways. It wasn't even a threat because we weren't even serious. He brought it up a few days ago that he wants to go for his friend's birthday. I reminded him of my boundary that he agreed to because we became exclusive, and he told me that his boundary was not to be with someone who controls him. I said, "I'm not trying to control you, but if that's a boundary for you, that's fine and we can end things now. My boundary will not change." He replied that he doesn't want to end things, and I just reiterated that he can't go to a strip club and also have me. It's just a hard boundary I don't foresee myself ever going back on. I feel like he's trying to push me to throw my boundary out the window, but I know for a fact that I won't feel good about it. We've only been together for 6 months, so at this point, I really think it would be just less of a headache to cut things off. I care about him, but I'm not interested in being a cool girlfriend who pretends I'm totally fine with something I find extremely disrespectful. He thinks I'm being irrational. I think it's kind of messed up he's trying to push against something, again, I warned him about before agreeing to be my girlfriend. Thoughts?
Storytime about how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So because I just turned 18, I thought about signing up for a few dating apps. So I did. I matched with this really cute guy named Chris. And we chatted on the app for like 3 weeks back and forth. I would ask him to FaceTime, but he would always make up some lame excuse. Yes, ladies, there's a video dating app coming out soon, so no more lame excuses for sus boys. Anyways, so finally after asking him a bunch of times to hang out, we finally made plans to meet up for dinner. He gave me the address to the place and it was like 20 minutes from where I lived. And he told me that he was going to be wearing a baseball cap, and I told him that I was going to be wearing a white shirt and green jeans. So I took an Uber and got there at like 6 o'clock, but when I got in there, I didn't see anybody with a baseball cap on. While I'm looking around, all of a sudden somebody taps me on the shoulder. So I turn around and it's this older guy wearing a baseball cap, and he goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Chris." So I'm definitely feeling super sus at this point, but I'm too fucking nice to be like, "Ooh, get the fuck away from me." So I figured I might as well get a free meal out of this. So we sat down to eat like for part 2. Okay, part 2 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So we get seated, we ordered our food, and I start talking to him. You know, I was just trying to be nice and finish my meal, but it was literally so creepy. The whole time he's like, "Wow, you're so beautiful. How are you still single? Yada, yada, yada." I honestly just wanted to eat and leave so bad. So here I am texting my friend that I just got fucking catfished. And while I was going in and out of my purse, I dropped my phone on the floor. And I know you're probably thinking, "Oh, why the hell is she telling us that part about the phone?" Well, because I'm pretty sure that he put something in my drink. No, like he 100% put something in my fucking drink. So I hurry up and eat my food and drink my drink because I just wanted to get the hell out of there. And my drink tasted totally fine, like there was no bitterness or anything. So while he was getting the check, I went to the bathroom to call my friend. And as soon as I get into the bathroom, I start feeling so off. And no, it was not my anxiety from sus Chris. I also felt like I was going to throw up. And my friend wasn't picking up at all. So I tried sharing my location with her, which I usually never do, like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So like I said, I shared my location with her, but it took me forever because I had no control over my body whatsoever, and I was throwing up uncontrollably. So she immediately knew that something was wrong because I wouldn't just randomly share my location with her. So that's when I blacked out, and I really only remember a few things that happened after that. Like, I remember being out in the parking lot and him walking me to a car, which I thought was my Uber. So I remember waking up in the car and looking at the dashboard and it being 9 o'clock at night. So I start to wake up a little bit, and I realize that I'm in somebody else's car and I can't find my phone anywhere. I'm pretty sure I blacked out again after that, because the last thing I remember is a police officer standing over me and shining a flashlight in my face. So apparently there's security footage of him pulling off into a gas station and putting me in the trunk, and he was able to make it all the way to South Carolina from West Virginia. So my best friend shared my location with authorities. I want to spread awareness that things like this actually do happen. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video's worth 1,000,000. So click the link in my bio for a safer option of online dating. Love you guys.
Here are my story times of unsolicited pics that I got and what the fuck it did to my mental. First time I ever received one, I was 16 in high school. So I was like a junior in high school. I got this from a man that I was just in like math class with. Like we were not talking, we were not anything. And I just opened Snapchat to his penis. I remember opening that and just crying. Like, I was just bawling my eyes out. Like, every girl knows, like, when you get one that's unsolicited, there's just a certain type of, like, you just feel fucking weird. Like, it's a weird feeling. This pic horrified me so badly. I called my ex-boyfriend, who I was broken up with for a month. I was like, babe, come over. I miss you. Like, I miss you. And I fully got back together with my ex-boyfriend after receiving that dick because I was just so mortified and horrified by the world that I live in. I was like, I gotta get back together with this fucker. Like, he would never have done that to me. You deadass have to have a strange looking dick for me to call my abusive ex-boyfriend up and want to get back together with him. Like, you have to have, like, the weirdest penis in the world. But I should have responded and told him that, like, that will humble a motherfucker so much and he'll never send one again. Hey, I received this. It was so horrific to look at. I got back together with my ex-boyfriend. I don't even fuck with my ex-boyfriend that heavy. I'm just so scared of the world we live in if there's motherfuckers like you in it that have that looking weird penis. Through the years, obviously, the unsolicited pics have not stopped. So do you know what I do when I get one? You're gonna be like, Libby, that's so fucked up. I'll screenshot it. I don't give a single fuck. I obviously freak out every single time I screenshot it, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I never asked to see this. And they're like, well, what are you gonna do with it? Maybe I'll send it to your employer. Maybe I'm feeling like a fucking bitch and I'll ruin your life with this. Or maybe just you knowing that I have that and I can do whatever I want with it is enough pain for me to cause you. Men have to be so fucking for real. If you're gonna send that and be a creep and a weirdo, I'm gonna be even weirder. I'm gonna be so much weirder. Screenshot it. I'll make it my fucking background. I'll post it to my Instagram story. You think I give a fuck? I'll tag your ass. You catch me on a bad day, you send me one on a bad day, it'll be my Facebook profile picture. I don't give a fuck. And I don't even use Facebook like that. Like, men have to realize there's consequences to these weird actions. Okay, the next story, I was told not to tell this. Like, literally everyone was like, Lydia, I would not tell this story on TikTok, but I'm gonna fucking do it. It's like, maybe somebody can relate to just like what happened. I was seeing this man and it was like the early stages of us talking, like a weekend kind of thing. I knew I liked him and I knew that I wanted to see where things went with him until this happened. Go to part 2. I was traveling and I was gonna be gone for the week. It was just so awkward. Whatever, we're like texting every single day, and one time we're texting and he's like, I can't stop thinking about you. And I'm like, oh my god, like, prove it. In my head, when I said prove it, I meant like, I thought, I don't know, maybe I was like, maybe he'll send me flowers. Like, I don't know, just something like that sense. Or maybe he'll be like, I'm drinking a coffee and I'm thinking of you. Something like this. When someone's like, I miss you, and you're like, prove it, I think it's gonna be something cute. I was so fucking wrong. This man sent me a video of him off in black and white. The fucker put a filter on it and was like, that's how much I miss you. I said, what the fuck? I remember opening that and just like a pit dropped to my stomach because like it would have been different if like I had been sending nudes or something like that. No, nothing of the sort. And like, I just felt so fucking weird after getting it. Like, you know the feeling. Anytime you get an unsolicited dick pic, like, it's that exact feeling where you just feel like gross and fucking weird. And mind you, I'm with one of my best friends on this trip, and like, you know it's bad when I can't even tell her. I'm like sitting in my room and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like, what was this? Like, this is so weird. Like, couldn't respond for an hour type of fucking weird. And I like honestly just didn't know what to do, because it's like, you know what? I like this guy. I really, really liked this guy. But he sent me a Tumblr looking video. It wasn't even a picture, it was a video. I was like, that was like not my vibe, like at all. And I was just kind of like, what the fuck do I do? Like, what do I do? Because like I liked this man, but then he just has that weird tendency. Like, why did he just send me that? Can I ignore this? Probably not. I tell my best friend the next day, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm trying to normalize it too. Yeah, I tell my best friend that I'm with and I'm like, look what blank sent me. Like, look what he sent me. And like, I'm trying to normalize this shit. I'm trying to be like, you're not dating a fucking weirdo, Livy. Like, you're not dating an absolute freak. And I was just like, look, like, isn't this normal? Isn't this normal? And she has a tendency to normalize things too. Like, yeah, I mean, like, was that the vibe? Like, what was the vibe of the conversation? I'm like, I don't know. Just like, watch. Look how big his dick is. Like, ha. Not even that big to send the video, babe. Like, really should have just kept it in the draft. So don't send it to me, love. I literally remember laying in that bed being like, I just wish this man never sent me this because things would have been golden. We would have been fucking married with kids if I didn't receive this. But now I just feel awkward. Like I was like, I need a lobotomy just so I can forget that he did this because he was fucking perfect until I received that. At the time, I didn't even want to admit to myself how fucking weird it was. So it took me months, even when things ended with this guy, it took me months to even tell my other best friends and like to tell Sissy like, hey, this happened. And everyone I told was like, Livy, what the fuck? That's like the biggest red flag. And I was like, I know. That's my story time.